didn't get into running up until when I was 23 years old. I lived in New York City. Who knew that only 1 year later I would go on these 2-hour long runs? So what got me so hooked on running? The first and probably the biggest reason why. Hey guys, so today I'm going to talk to you about how I went from somebody who hated running to someone who now runs every single week. So first of all, as a kid, when I had to run in school, I absolutely hated it. I could not comprehend, why do I have to push through this mental and physical pain, this never-ending torture, and what is there for me if it's so not enjoyable? And I actually didn't get into running up until when I was 23 years old. I lived in New York City, and I also did a huge lifestyle change. I went vegan. And I think that was the biggest example for me how one lifestyle choice can absolutely lead and encourage another one. The changes I went through during that time was something that I absolutely didn't expect. My energy levels were over the roof. I started naturally waking up super early, which has never ever happened to me before. I just started craving body movement. So every morning I would wake up around 5:30 or 6 in the morning naturally, and I would walk over to this park that was next to my apartment, and I would go for these long walks and watch people run. And I just felt so compelled to just give it a try. And this is literally how I started. Who knew that only 1 year later, I would go on these 2-hour long runs around Central Park, non-stop, and truly enjoy the experience? So what got me so hooked on running? The first and probably the biggest reason why is when I started running longer than 10 or 15 minutes at a time, I started experiencing something that I've never felt before in my life. I know different runners have different names for it. Scientists have done a lot of research and also provided explanation behind it, and I'll link some articles. The way it feels to me up until this day is at some point of your run, you get into this zone or this state where you don't really notice that you run anymore. You don't notice any physical pains in your body, you just flow. And what happens to me during that phase of the run is that I feel like my mind truly expands, and I feel so mentally clear and sharp and creative. And if there were things that I was thinking about the night before or throughout the week before my run, somehow the ideas and the solutions would just start popping up in my head. And it feels like there's no boundaries and there's no limits to what you can come up with and what you can think of. And because I've never experienced this during any other types of workouts in my life, the first time that happened, I just thought, wow, that was a great idea that came to my mind. But I didn't tie it to my running up until that happened over and over and over again on my longer runs. Some of the most creative, innovative, problem-solving ideas I've ever had in my life came to me during my runs. And the funny thing here is that window of this expended brain power multiplied by 1,000,000 actually closes pretty quickly after the run. So I've trained myself to write things down on my phone and my notes right after I stop running, because if you just go about your day, you kind of forget either the ideas themselves because there are just so many, or the details that it went to. So now, outside of just running 2 times a week as I normally do, whenever I'm looking for a solution to a certain situation or problem, or I just need to come up with a creative idea, I go for a run, and it just absolutely never fails me. My reason number 2 is running taught me to be comfortable in a discomfortable situation. I think we've all heard about comfort zones so many times, and by now we know that all the greatest things that happen in our lives happened outside of it. The less you step outside of your comfort zone, the more difficult it becomes to do anything outside of it, or even just allow yourself to think that you can do new things. Of course, in the very beginning, it was absolutely discomfortable, even though I felt like I wanted to move my body and I wanted to get into running. However, even now, the first 5 to 10 minutes are always the worst because your body's still warming up. Most of the times I run early in the morning, so I'm overall still kind of waking up. You feel like, oh my God, I should have stayed in bed, or whatever it is going on in your mind. And I think that in itself, in a bigger picture of your life, truly helps you become mentally stronger and more resilient to stresses and discomforts anywhere you go. Okay, last but not least, my reason number 3 is that running has truly become a form of meditation to me. I feel like nowadays we're so easily distracted, we're constantly multitasking, we're on our phones, and it's just so difficult to stay present. There's something very special about running in that sense because it kind of forces you to focus on your breathing, the way your body feels, what is going on around you, your environment, the weather, the breeze. All of that in combination kind of pulls you back into the moment and makes you truly feel present in that moment and in that experience, and you're just not as easily distracted by so many things going on in your life. And I think because of that, every single time after the run, I just feel so mentally reset and refreshed, just like I would after meditation at home. Okay, so now that I kind of covered all the reasons why I run, let me give you just a few simple tips if you are someone who is not into running but really looking to try it out as a beginner. So number 1, and I always say it about any type of workout you decide to do or any type of body movement you want to encourage, you have to create a killer playlist that will give you no option but to go and just move your body. It works for me every single time, even when I don't feel like working out or moving my body. One song makes all the difference in the world. Number 2, you gotta start short and just build that fitness gradually. It took me a few months to even get to a 3 miles point just because I wasn't pushing myself too hard. Just kind of try to get a feel for it. Try to get your body understand how to move. And now looking back, I feel like it was the best thing I've ever done because the last thing you want to experience is a sore body or even worse, an injury because you pushed yourself so hard that you completely didn't enjoy it, and also all the consequences in the weeks after kind of ruin your whole life quality. So please start super small. Number 3, and that is something that I believe strongly in up until this day and something that I practice, I never go after my speed, I go after distance. When I want to get out of running, I want to build my endurance, and I want to get to longer runs where I can experience all of those benefits that I've talked to you in the beginning of this video. Unless you are thinking about getting into a professional competitive running, you do not need to worry about your speed at all. Number 4, try to mix up the surfaces. In the beginning, when you start running and then eventually you build up your distances and you run longer, you might experience sore knees after just because the surface you always run on is very hard, like paved roads and stuff like that. So if you have an ability to go into a park or anywhere outdoors where it's just ground or grass, and just try to always mix it up so that you give a little bit of a break for your knee. Those are the main tips that help me in my experience with running, but of course don't forget about the basics like stretching before and after your runs, getting the right and comfortable running shoes for you, staying hydrated, taking a day off when you're feeling sore. All of those things are super important and super crucial, especially when you're just starting and it's still very new for your body. So it's gonna take you time to adjust and get to a point where you truly just forget that you even run when you're running and you start enjoying and getting all of those benefits that I've talked to you about. Honestly, running is one of the best practices I've ever brought into my life, and I continue to do it consistently because I truly see and feel how it improves quality of my life day into day. So I hope this video helped you to find more reasons that would motivate you to start or at least give it a try and experience all of these benefits for yourself. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you soon.